Figs and stuff, figs and stuff.
So, I was playing with my action figures. Oh, hi Barbie. That's a nice car you've got there.
Thank you.
I'm sure that'll come in handy for a future project. Anyway, where was I? I was playing with my action figures when I thought to myself, what if we had a heat gun and some resin into the mix? And that's exactly what we will do today on Things and Stuff. To start off, we need our Barbie and a shadow box. I began by opening up our box to see if this would hold our resin without leaking, which, unfortunately, it wouldn't. But to fix this issue, I grabbed some UV resin and our UV light and proceeded to seal all the edges around the glass. Once that was done, I popped it all back together to see if everything would fit, which luckily it did. Then I cut a lead strip light to the size needed and began marking out how much of that inner box thingy I would need to cut away so that our LED lights would fit. After cutting said box, I placed it back inside our outer box and began to install our LED strip lights. And guess what? They work perfectly. I don't know why, but I decided to show you that they still work perfectly when I turned the box over too. Now our Barbie happens to be a little too tall, but with the right tools we can cut her down to size. Which is exactly what I did. Then I grabbed a heat gun and proceeded to give Barbie a suntan. Then for some strange reason I aimed the heat gun directly at my fingers and quickly decided that was a bad idea. Now I'm heating her arms because I want to bend them into a slightly more dramatic position. I then grabbed a torch gun and began melting Barbie's face, being very careful not to burn her. Ah, damn it. Then I used an X-Acto knife to cut away the Freddy Krueger look that I had just created. Speaking of cutting away, I decided to hack away at bits of her mouth for good measure too. And despite being melted, cut, burnt and amputated, she surprisingly looked a lot like Gal Gadot. I then test fitted our Barbie in her soon-to-be resin coffin. But before putting her to rest, I did the right thing and gave her a nice UV resin shampoo, making sure to get deep into the roots and massaged her head to get her all nice and relaxed. Then I locked in all that look with the blast of the UV torch. Once in her final resting place, I began to randomly place UV dots on the glass to hopefully achieve a nice bubble effect on the surface. Then it was time to mix up some resin. I poured in the required amounts of part A, followed by part B, and began to mix them vigorously. I repeated this process again and again to make up a few different batches. I then mixed in various shades of pink and red into our resin and was eventually left with 3 cups of different coloured resin. Then it was time to drown our Barbie in resin. I began by pouring the darker colour first in the corners, followed by our lighter pink colour all over. Then finished it off with some of our darker, more vibrant colours in those corners again. I was going for a specific look, which initially seemed to work perfectly, but as I later discovered, all will not go to plan. I used my blowtorch to eliminate any tiny bubbles that rose to the surface, then waited 24 hours for it to set. Once ready, I placed our back panel back onto the back, that's a lot of backs, and turned it over to discover that most of the colours had actually blended evenly together rather than staying separate and in the areas I wanted them to stay. Oh well, lesson learnt for next time. Then there was just one tiny little thing to do before the final reveal. Well, that's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed my rendition of the blob poster recreated in resin. It didn't turn out exactly as I was hoping, but I did manage to get it pretty close, and I did learn a few things from my mistakes. I'll be getting more of these smaller projects done in between the bigger, more elaborate projects so that I can give you more content on a regular basis. Thanks again for watching Things and Stuff, and stay tuned for more projects coming soon. I'll see you in the next video.
Figs and stuff. Figs and stuff. I just like figs and stuff. Yeah.